Hooday, Bengal fans. He is Maan. I am Jake. This is the Bengals Pulse, the heartbeat of our Cincinnati Bengals. Maan, we are back here again. AFC Championship game. Just like last year, we are going into Arrowhead and playing a tough Kansas City Chiefs team. A Kansas City Chiefs team that has been in the AFC Championship game now 5 years in a row. Again, a team that still is really at the top of the AFC. I think the Bengals. This is a statement game for us. Man, whew, the nerves are. I told you before we went on air, the nerves are already kicking in. Today was a rough day. Tomorrow's going to be even rougher as we get closer to this game. But Mon, how's your week been?
It's been really good. Really excited about championship week. We're this close to going back to a Super Bowl. I mentioned it last week. That feeling we had walking out of SoFi Stadium, that empty, sad feeling, and knowing how hard it is to get back to a Super Bowl, and we're this close. Jake, you're right about the Chiefs. 5 straight AFC Championship games. I mean, that is phenomenal. And listen, this is a Bengals podcast. I don't want to give them too much praise, but that's pretty elite. That's special. And, we have beat them 3 in a row, and to beat them 4 times is going to take a special effort on our Bengals. But I think we're going to be up to the challenge. I love this team. I love how they're playing. I am nervous. I wish it was Sunday already. And I just can't wait for 6:30 Sunday night.
Yeah, I was thinking about it today. Last year we had that early game on Sunday, and man, it's going to be brutal. It's going to be brutal watching that first game as we get closer to kickoff. At first, I thought, oh no, it'll be better having the late game, but now I don't know. I'm second guessing myself a little bit there. I think I'd rather have that 3 o'clock game, but 6:30, and it should be the primetime game. I mean, let's be real, the two best quarterbacks in the NFL facing off. Again, we're gonna dive into this game a little bit closer here in the show today. But this is a Chiefs team that, yes, the Bengals have beaten 3 times in a row, 3 times in a calendar year, which is even more insane when you think about that. And I think that piece of it, you can look at it two sides, right? One side you could say, well, the Bengals have the Chiefs number. And the other side, you could say, well, it's hard to beat a team 4 straight times. So I think, there's a double side to that 3-game winning streak. And I think that's where a little bit of the nerves come in, because I know it's tough to beat somebody 4 straight times, especially a team like the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be a challenge. I spent a lot of time the last couple of days reviewing some of the old, the previous games, recent games with the Chiefs. NFL Network, NFL Now had a replay of the championship game last year, so I watched the last 5 minutes of that game, including obviously the overtime. But there was a couple plays, Jake. I think you're going to remember. Trey Hendrickson was just chasing Mahomes 2 minutes in regulation, and the guy that literally ran 50 yards chasing him multiple times. And Mahomes got out of bounds, but of course they had to settle for a field goal and went into overtime. But thinking with his high ankle sprain right now, I don't see Mahomes doing that kind of running in this game. So that could benefit the Bengals tremendously, because he did that quite a bit in that championship game and the game before that in Cincinnati last year. I think he's going to play. He's still got that cannon, that rocket arm, but I think he's going to have some limited mobility, and hopefully Lou Anarumo's ready to maybe put a little extra pressure on him, and maybe we can get a couple turnovers out of it.
Well, I'm going to say this, and I'm not questioning the injury or anything like that, but I've been around the game for a very long time, Mon, and I'm going to tell you right now, a high ankle sprain, if that was a true high ankle sprain, Patrick Mahomes would not be playing this game. So I don't know exactly the degree of his injury, but the fact that he is walking around on it and running around on it, that is not a high ankle sprain. And again, I'm not a medical doctor or anything like that. I am a football coach, but I've been around this game a long time, and high ankle sprains are awful, almost as bad, if not worse, than a break with an actual break. So again, I'm not questioning Patrick Mahomes. I'm not saying this is a Ben Roethlisberger type injury where he takes a tough hit and then he goes out and he's limping around all of a sudden because he wants to come in and be the hero. We saw Ben Roethlisberger do that many times, almost to the point where he's faking the injury so he looks like the hero. And I'm not saying that's what's going on with Patrick Mahomes. We saw the video. Obviously, that ankle, you could see it bend underneath the legs of another player. But again, I'm not a doctor, but I've been around high ankle sprains, and they are brutal. A lot of the times, you can't even walk for the next week or two. So the fact that he's running around, the fact that he's playing in this football game, says to me that if this is a high ankle sprain, it's got to be the lowest possible grade, because there is no way he's run around on a high ankle sprain. I agree with you though. If it is, and his mobility is shortened because of that. Again, remember, that's his right foot. For a quarterback, that's your plant foot. So that's where all your power comes from. Your power accelerates from your foot up through your hips, from that back foot, that plant foot. So that tells me that if there is something going on there, there's not going to be a lot of power behind those throws, and there's definitely not going to be any mobility if it's a high ankle sprain. So I think Bengals in this game, our guys have got to keep him in the pocket, because I'll be honest with you, Patrick Mahomes is a different quarterback when he is inside the pocket. And listen, I think he is the second best quarterback in the NFL to Joe Burrow, but he's definitely the most dynamic player in the NFL. And to keep him inside the pocket is definitely going to shorten the field for the Cincinnati Bengals defense, and that's going to help out tremendously.
If you listen to Paul Dehner and Jay Morrison's latest podcast, they brought in the athletic reporter that covers the Kansas City Chiefs, and he was talking about the press conference yesterday. And apparently, the Chiefs media, or the beat writers that cover the Chiefs, had 5 minutes to watch them warm up before the official practice. And he said that he noticed that both ankles were heavily taped. He thinks that the chief staff did that on purpose, they didn't want it, the one that's injured, to be so heavily taped and the other one not. They're trying to make it, maybe it's like a psychological thing.
Right.
But he also mentioned that normally the beat writers are allowed to see them doing certain, one-on-one warm-ups, one-on-one drills. This practice, they were not allowed to see the one-on-one, and he goes, that they found that very odd. So I don't know. Listen, I think it is injured. It's probably the lowest. It's probably like a low 1 grade sprain. They had a doctor on ESPN 1530 today talking about that. He said if it was like I guess it's 1, 2, 3, 1 being the
Yes.
least
Yes.
injured. The doctor suspects it's about a 1 to a 2. He said if it was a 3, there was no way any player could play with that. But he did say even with the level 1 sprain or grade, it's still going to affect his play. They're saying the lateral movement more than anything. So we'll see. Listen, honestly, what did Jesse Bates say? He wants him to be at 100%. He doesn't want any excuses. And I agree. Listen, he's a great player. And the last thing we need is we don't want a talented player like that injured. We want the Bengals to face the best. And we've beat them 3 times. Let's make it 4.
Agreed. Again, like I said, I'm not a doctor, but I do know football injuries. And I'm telling you right now, if that thing is a high ankle sprain, it's definitely the lowest grade, because there's no way he'd be moving around on it. And it's going to affect his mechanics. There's no doubt. Like you said, moving laterally, getting inside, outside the pocket. That's where Patrick Mahomes can really hurt you. But let's look real quick at the head-to-head, because everybody talks about this. The Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes head-to-head. Joe Burrow, obviously, with the 3-0 right now, Joe Burrow's the only quarterback to beat Patrick Mahomes 3 times in a row. Now, again, remember, we call this head-to-head, but a lot of it has to do with the Bengals defense too, right? I mean, that's a big part of this. But Joe Burrow, 72.2 completion percentage. Patrick Mahomes, 67.3. Joe Burrow, 327 yards a game. Patrick Mahomes, 252 yards a game. Again, this is a 3 games, including that AFC Championship last year. Joe Burrow, 8 touchdowns to 1 interception. Patrick Mahomes, 6 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. So obviously, Joe Burrow has played really well. Again, he's not going up against Patrick Mahomes on the field, but I think it says a little bit more about the Bengals defense as opposed to the Kansas City Chiefs defense. And this Kansas City Chiefs defense that you're going to talk about here in a little bit is a defense that has a lot of young guys out there, and is a defense that really I see as a defense that was kind of leaking oil a little bit towards the end of the year. So I feel very comfortable about that matchup. Again, I think this real matchup, as I said last week, with the Bengals D against the Bills offense, I think we're going to see the same thing. I think we're going to see what kind of matchup are we going to get with this Bengals defense. What is Lou Anarumo going to throw at them this week? Because again, to me, the Bengals offense, the Kansas City Chiefs are not going to be able to stop this Bengals offense. I think the Bengals are going to score 28, 31 points, something like that. It's just going to be this matchup. And again, part of that has to do with Patrick Mahomes' injury.
Yes, it is going to be interesting to see. I'm curious to see how Steve Spagnuolo attacks Joe Burrow in the Cincinnati offense. He struggled over the last 3 games. I keep on going back to the Ravens. I know they're 2 just totally separate teams, but the Ravens did slow down the Bengals offense this year. They played really smash mouth football. Those linebackers.
They got better.
Really,
Come on, they got better players on
oh,
defense.
absolutely, they do. Yes, they do. That's true. But I could see them trying to take a page out of that, maybe trying to generate some pressure. I am going to talk about the Chiefs here in a few minutes. They have some very solid players on defense. They have one guy that was potentially defensive MVP, and so the Bengals will be ready. I just really expect a very rabid fan base, and that team is going to be fired up because Cincinnati Bengals beat them 3 in a row, and Cincinnati just has to survive that energy, that initial intensity from the fans and from the team, from the Chiefs. We need to survive that. No turnovers, get through it, and then go on. We're the better team. Let's get a 10-point win.
Well, I think the Bengals too. When we look at this, just like last week, we talked about last week before the Bills game, the Bengals have to start fast, and they did against the Bills. And same concept on Sunday. Bengals start fast. Make Patrick Mahomes. I know this sounds crazy, Maan. This sounds so crazy, but with that injury, make Patrick Mahomes beat you. You saw last week. I don't know how much of the Chiefs Jags game that you watched, but Jacksonville just set back in zone coverage. They did not put pressure on Mahomes after he got hurt. I saw a stat somewhere before Mahomes got hurt against the Jaguars pressured him like almost 60% of the time. After he got hurt, they pressured him like 20-something% of the time. It makes no sense when you have a quarterback run around on one leg back there, why you would only pressure him 3 out of like 18 dropbacks after he got hurt. Makes no sense. And to me, honestly, that cost Jacksonville the game. That was a game that the Jaguars easily could have won. And again, I think Lou Dini, right? Lou Dini has got to, and he will, I'm sure. He's going to bring exotic blitzes. Patrick Mahomes, again, keeping him in the pocket is going to be huge, because if he doesn't have that mobility, and the Bengals bring all these different exotic blitzes like they have been, I think Patrick Mahomes is going to struggle. I really do. I think he is going to struggle, and I think this is a game, like I said last week in the Bills game, that this could get away from the Chiefs, and the Bengals could have another. I don't want to say easy win because none of these games are easy, but another win where with 5 minutes left, I'm not having to go out in your front yard and watch it through the window.
Yeah, listen, Lou's going to have a great game plan. One thing about our defense that's really great, a lot of we have some rookies, some young guys contributing, but we have a lot of veterans that are very smart football players. They've been in this defense for a while. They play well together, and Lou can morph into a 3-4 look, 4-3 look. He can do multiple things, and I think that's why teams struggle against us. And I think he's going to come up with something. I was sitting there thinking today, talking to a friend of mine. We were talking about the Josh Allen hit for Mike Hilton, how he blitzed off the edge and hit Josh Allen, which should have been a fumble. I could see corner blitzes, Dax Hill coming in. Pat Mahomes is going to have some, his mobility is not going to be the same. And I can see the Bengals generating pressure that way. I don't see them blitzing every down, but the Bengals will blitz more than they normally do. They're not a heavy blitz team anyway. Listen, it's going to be fun. I just can't wait for it to get here. My head is continually spinning. I have all this stuff going through my head. They should do this. They should do that. They should do this. Let's just let's
Well,
Sunday.
let's go off of what Lou Anarumo said today this week in an interview I saw. They were asking him, hey, Lou's like, hey, listen, we're gonna do this. We're gonna bring all this. We're gonna do these hot zone blitzes, all this stuff, these fire blitzes, and all this. And the interviewer's like, so what happens if that doesn't work? He's like, well, we'll just cover Kelsey, right? And really, that's really should be the plan. I mean, it sounds simple, but it is simple, right? I mean, cover Kelsey. The Jaguars didn't. He had 14 receptions against Jaguars. Yeah, I mean, he's their best player on offense, excluding Patrick Mahomes. He's their best skill player. Cover him. Cover Travis Kelsey. Those receivers are not going to beat us. Don't let Travis Kelsey beat you. Let me go ahead and I'll start off first real quick. I'm going to just give you some offensive stats here. Obviously, this Chiefs offense is explosive. We know that. Patrick Mahomes finished the year 5,200 yards passing, 41 touchdowns. He was the touchdown passing leader this year. Joe Burrow had 35, but remember, Joe Burrow played one less game than Patrick Mahomes. So there you go. And the way that game started, he might have had 6 touchdowns against the Bills on Monday night. Isaiah Pacheco is an interesting cog in this game because he is a guy. He had 830 yards rushing this year and 5 touchdowns, but he's a guy that could hurt you. He's a solid back, and I think we saw that against Jacksonville last week. If you watch the Chiefs-Jags game, besides Kelsey, Pacheco was the one guy that kept Kansas City in that football game and had some big runs there at the end. And then, of course, Travis Kelsey, 1,300 yards receiving, 12 touchdowns. I think he broke the tight end record this year. 110 receptions for tight end is just insane. Again, he's the guy that the Bengals have to stop. And when we played him earlier in the year, he had that big fumble that Jermaine Pratt ripped out, if you remember, and it really turned the whole momentum of that game early on in the year. So I'm sure Travis Kelsey has got a chip on his shoulder a little bit from that as well. But again, we know this Chiefs offensive line, they're solid. I would say they're right there with as good as we thought the Buffalo Bills offensive line would be. And then again, Isaiah Pacheco, but we are definitely not dealing with the same receiving core that we saw last week. This receiving core is just about average. I mean, when Juju Smith-Schuster is really your best receiver, then you're in good shape. And we saw the injury report today, and the injury report said that the Chiefs are pretty healthy for the most part, but there is that Hardman receiver is he's questionable right now, and he's been questionable the last couple of days. and Hardman is an explosive guy. So he's a guy that we need to watch too. I'm not real sure injury wise what's going on with him, but he is a guy that we definitely have to look out for. Again, as Bengal fans, we're not really worried about Juju. I mean, he's really been a guy that he's just not really explosive. But again, I think this comes down to stopping Kelsey, bracket him, do whatever you have to do. We saw a lot of that last week. The Bengals going out and bracketing those Buffalo Bills receivers. Let's go out and bracket Kelsey, put a linebacker over him, get your hands on him. Again, that's what we tell our guys when those tight ends are firing off the line of scrimmage. Put your hands on them. Don't let them get off the line of scrimmage clean. Get your hands on Kelsey. And obviously, like I said, stop the run, because we want, again, this sounds ridiculous, me even saying it, but we want Patrick Mahomes to have to stand in the pocket and throw the football. We want that this game because of the injury.
Jake, I don't know if you watch Inside the NFL. It's a great show. It's been on for years. It's on.
I used to watch it. Used to watch it years ago when it was on HBO.
Yeah, I subscribed to Paramount just so I can watch it. They had a great episode last night, and they had I sent you guys a video. I don't know if you saw it, but they were talking about the AFC Championship game. And when they got to Julian Edelman, he was talking about a friend of his that plays for the Bengals, and they said plastered all over the wall are signs that said, "Have you covered Travis Kelsey today?" They have that all over. Basically, that's their number one goal: cover Kelsey, cover Kelsey. And it was worded in a funnier way, but still, that's the number one message in that Bengals locker room.
Well, like I said, I heard Lou in an interview this week say that basically, if all else fails defensively, if the fire zone blitzes are not working and all that stuff is not working, just cover Kelsey. That was what Lou Anarumo said. So again, the Bengals aren't hiding that. I mean, they shouldn't have to. Everybody understands who the best skill player is on that team. It's Travis Kelsey. He's a heck of a football player. You and I are not big fans. The Abel Hassans are not big fans of Travis Kelsey, especially your son Jake. We won't talk about that story at the Pro Bowl, but your son. Well, real quick, I'll tell it. Why not? Your son. Him and I were walking. We were leaving the practice area, and he saw Travis Kelsey walking, and went up to him to ask for his autograph. Jake was years younger at that point, and asked Travis Kelsey, "Hey, are you Travis Kelsey?" And he said no, and just walked away. I mean,
he said, "No, I look like him. I'm not Travis Kelsey," and walked away. And he started laughing, and he was still in his Kansas City Chief.
I know. He's a clown. He's a clown.
I sat there and I said, I was like, "Are you serious?" And
it was rude. It was rude and obnoxious.
We're low-lying fruit. What are we going to do? We just walked away. We were stunned, but whatever.
He's obnoxious, but I think he is a guy that we have to stop. I mean, he is their guy, and he's the one when everything's breaking down that Patrick Mahomes is going to look for. And usually Patrick Mahomes can work his way out of the pocket, and Travis Kelsey, give him a little bit more time, Travis Kelsey, to get off some of that bracket coverage. But again, that's why I said we keep Patrick Mahomes in that pocket, we're going to be in good shape.
Yeah, Jake, before I get to the defense, I want to mention something about that offense. I mentioned something a few minutes ago about the Ravens. I expect the Chiefs to run the ball quite a bit this game. I think Pacheco, their other running back, is it McKinnon? Is that his name?
Yes.
They're going to run the ball quite a bit. I expect 25, 30 rush attempts to protect the quarterback Mahomes and his ankle, and also to keep Burrow on the bench potentially. It's going to be a big key for Reeder and our defensive line to contain that. But I see them coming out trying to establish the run game. I think our defense will be ready for it. Okay, about their defense right now, real quick, they let me pull this up. They're 11th in the NFL in total defense. They give up 328 yards a game. They're 8th against the rush, and they're 18th against the pass game. One thing that really shocked me about the Kansas City Chiefs, they're tied for 22nd in turnover differential. They're a negative -3,
Wow.
which is yeah, that is. They do throw the ball quite a bit, so I could see that. But it would be nice to get a few more turnovers and make that number worse for them. When you talk about the Kansas City Chiefs, obviously the stud of that team is Chris Jones. He 15 see or 15 and a half sacks. There was talk about him potentially being the defensive MVP for the league. He had a great year. He's a difference maker. The Bengals have to be ready for him. Of
Yes.
course, they've invested heavily in the draft and Karlaftis, their defensive end, trying to generate more pressures. The last time we played the Chiefs, I think he only had one sack, not against us, but for the whole year. I think he's taken off. Since then he's had five more. He has 6 sacks on the season. There's Carlos Dunlap, our old friend. He's still rather productive. They got Frank Clark, who was from Seattle, I do believe. He's come in. He hasn't had the big splash they were expecting. They've invested a lot of money trying to generate pass rush to come after guys like Allen and Burrow. It's going to be key for that offensive line that's not going to have Kappa and Williams to control those guys. I think the weakness of their defense is their defensive backs. They have two rookies starting in the backfield. Trent McDuffie's one of them. Their leading tackler is a linebacker, Nick Bolton. He's a smaller guy. He's about 5'11", 221. He's a smaller linebacker, but he's very fast and active. I don't. They're not the Chicago Bears of 1985. The Bengals
No.
are very familiar with them. I think the Bengals know how to attack them. Uh, their defensive coordinator is one of the best in the league. I think he's gonna trust me. He's gonna throw the kitchen sink. He's gonna figure a way out to get to Burrow. He wants to make Burrow uncomfortable. I think our coaching staff knows this, and they're going to protect them. But their defense does not scare me. If you contain Chris Jones, if you could keep those rush ends at bay, because Carlos Dunlap is older, but he's still capable of disrupting a game. We saw that in the game in December.
Yeah.
He kept us from scoring that touchdown. One other thing about that game, we easily left what 10, 14 points on the field. The Tyler Boyd dropped touchdown. Remember that?
Tyler Boyd dropped touchdown, and when we went for it, we were down inside the 10-yard line and ran that jet sweep, and got stopped right before halftime. I mean, really, that's if anything, that's about 11 points, right? I mean, you're talking about a touchdown and the difference between Tyler Boyd catching that football and a field goal. So we left 11 points on the field for sure.
Yeah, that was just rewatching that game, that play. When you're inside the 5-yard line, you're supposed to score touchdowns.
Yeah.
That we could have put that game away. It could have been similar to the Buffalo. It could have been a 14, 17 point win. We cannot let that happen in this game. We have to capitalize. Every time we're inside that red zone, I want to score a touchdown. I do not want short field goals. That's one of my pet peeves in college or pro football. When I see the stat line where a team kicks an 18 or 20-yard field goal, you lose games because you're inside the 5 and you're supposed to score.
Yeah. Well, let me say this real quick because I have in front of me the Chiefs' last 5 games. Okay, again, compared to our last 5 games, which were all 5 playoff teams, our last 5 games have been against all playoff teams. Right, the Bills at Buffalo. We played Baltimore 2 weeks in a row at home, and then at New England, at Tampa. All right, so 5 playoff teams right there. This is the Chiefs' last 5 games: Jacksonville, Las Vegas Raiders, Denver Broncos, Seattle Seahawks, and Houston Texans, Mon. So again, not they played 2 playoff teams, right? And really, I mean, Jacksonville, Seattle, I don't know where you would put those as far as on the list anywhere. But listen to some of these scores. Jacksonville game 27-20. That was in Kansas City against a very young, inexperienced Jacksonville team. And then you have the Denver Broncos, who are one of the worst teams in the NFL. Mon, that score was 27-24. And I'm telling you right now, the Broncos could have won that football game. And that was also in Kansas City. And then at the Houston Texans, who have the second overall pick, who are quite possibly the worst team in the NFL. That game went to overtime, Mon, and the Chiefs won 30-24 on a Texans fumble. So again, when I say this team is leaking oil, this Kansas City team is not world beaters at any means. So, you're right. You said it earlier. The Cincinnati Bengals are the better football team. There's no doubt about it. They are position-wise, just skill-wise, the Bengals are the better team. But it is the playoffs. It is on the road. And the Kansas City Chiefs are still a good football team. But this Kansas City Chiefs team is leaking oil. It is definitely not the same Kansas City Chief team that we saw back in December. This team has leaked oil ever since. And again, they've won their last 5. But again, as I told you, 3 of those teams are picking in the top 7, I think. And we played all playoff teams. So this Bengal team is battle tested. We've said it many times. I don't know. I feel good about this football game, but it is the playoffs and you never know.
Jake, remember the Tampa Bay game? We were there. That was the same week that the Texans and the Chiefs played. Yes. And that was an early game, and we were like, oh my God, the Texans are about to beat the Chiefs.
They should have.
Think about this. If the Texans would have won that game, this game would be at Paycor Stadium.
Isn't that crazy?
The game tomorrow or Sunday would be at Paycor Stadium.
Oh, man. Come on, Texans. What about the Denver Broncos? I mean, Russell Wilson, they had the game won. The Broncos had the game won, and Russell Wilson gave it away. Again, like I said, this Chiefs team, as we look at guys like Travis Kelce and Chris Jones, they're great football players, Patrick Mahomes, but this Kansas City Chiefs team it's not even the same team that we played last year in the AFC Championship. Not even close. And real quick, Mom, before we move on to this last segment, I do want to talk to you. What were to you, because I was kind of looking back. You said you watched the last 5 minutes of last year's AFC Championship game. I remember 2 big plays in that game. The first one obviously was the Sam Hubbard sack, the one that in the red zone, Kansas City drove the ball down, was in our red zone there at the end of the game, and that Sam Hubbard play was just incredible. That hustle play where Mahomes is running around and doing all this crazy stuff, and Sam Hubbard, he stayed level, he stayed square with Patrick Mahomes, and you really saw a lot of Sam Hubbard's athleticism on that play. Obviously, Sam Hubbard makes the play, sacks, almost causes a game-ending fumble, if you remember correctly. So that was play number 1. And then play number 2, obviously, that play in overtime with Von Bell and Jesse Bates, just an incredible play to cause that interception. I don't know, Ma, what are some plays that you remember from that AFC Championship game last year?
The play right before the Von Bell Jesse Bates combination interception was almost a walk-off pick 6 by Eli.
That's right. I forgot about that.
And you want to talk about
that was a ball that was thrown out in the flats. They threw a little hook route, and Eli should have walked in with it. I forgot about that. It would have
been a walk-off, pick 6. He is absolutely the most hated man in the NFL. His Twitter is something else, but that would have been one heck of a memory right there. Yeah, that play right there sticks out to me because I remember how I felt at the house. Like, you can't make this up. My goodness, we're going to lose now. Then the next play, Jesse Bates and Von Bell came through. One other play, Jake, real quick. After that interception, the Bengals still had the drive. They had the ball at the 45-yard line. They needed to get 30, 40 yards. Joe Mixon took a handoff ran, around the left side and literally ran 25, 30 yards. He almost broke
Yes.
that for a touchdown.
Yeah, it's
He
almost a walk off too,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
he
Yeah.
played. He was that Joe Mixon from that play I was just describing was the Joe Mixon last week in Buffalo. He ran like
Yeah.
a man possessed.
Yeah.
And I was watching Ace and Zim show earlier, and Zim brought up a good point. Some of his friends said that he was the best player on the field last week. He was unbelievable. Joe
Oh,
Mixon was.
he was unreal. We talked about that after the game. Remember, you and I talked about that. I mean, it looked like the old Joe Mixon.
So hopefully we see more of that. One other thing about past games, the game this year, I was looking at some stats getting ready for this show. The Bengals ran the ball 35 times in that game in
Yeah.
December.
Yeah. Wow.
And that was, remember, P. Ryan had over 100 yards rushing that game.
That's right.
I would love to see some more of that. I would
And
love to see.
remember, Mon, in that game, no Joe Mixon and no Hayden Hurst in that game. No Joe Mixon, no Hayden Hurst back in December. Now, Hayden Hurst did come up on the injury report today. I don't know if you saw.
I did.
Uh, Maybe the calf is acting up a little bit. Doesn't look like anything serious. I'm not going to get to that point yet. Lord knows I can't take that right now with already the nerves that I'm dealing with. But I listen, Hayden Hurst, if he's got to be dragged out there, he is not missing this football game. He missed the first one. He's not missing this one. But Hayden Hurst, remember, he played in the beginning of that game in December. And then on that, they ran that corner route with him, and he kind of got dragged down funny. And that's when the calf injury happened
Right.
early on in that Kansas City game in December. So didn't have him for the majority of the game. Didn't have Joe Mixon. And they were still able to establish a run with Samaje Perine. So I feel good about it, Mon. I really do. I feel good about the matchup. Like I said, I am not so much worried about our offense versus their defense. I think our offense right now is clicking on all cylinders. I want to see the Bengals defense continue to show some exotic looks and bring those hot fire blitzes and stuff, and let's disrupt Patrick Mahomes, make him uncomfortable, and go from there. It's going to be very interesting to see when this game kicks off, what kind of shape Patrick Mahomes is in. I'm going to be very interested. We're going to know right away if this injury is real or not, as far as the severity of it. We're going to know right away in that first Chiefs possession what we're going to see for the rest of the day.
Yeah, we are. And, the Bengals just need to be ready for a healthy Pat Mahomes.
Yeah.
Also, they need to do some scouting on their backup. What is he, 37 years old? Is it Chad Henne? Is that his name?
Yeah, Chad Henne. And remember, Chad Henne came in and led like a 99-yard touchdown drive against the Jags. Again, shame on Jacksonville for losing that football game. They had every single opportunity to win that football game. Remember, Mon, they turned the ball over twice in a row. 2 possessions in a row, they turned the ball over inside of the Chiefs' 30-yard line. And one of them was inside of the 10-yard line. And, cost them the football game. I mean, They lost by 7 points.
So go back for number 39. I think it was Agnew. He fumbled at the 5 or 6 yard line.
Yeah.
A couple plays before that, he almost broke a long touchdown run too on a kick.
On a kick return, right? He almost broke the kickoff return for a touchdown. Just think about that. The Jags scored those 2 touchdowns, and this game is still being played in Paycor against the Jacksonville Jaguars, right? How crazy would that have been? But again, this game is going to be a battle. It's going to be a battle. I don't care about what kind of shape Patrick Mahomes is in. This is not going to be a game that is going to be easy, but I still see this game being a 10-point difference. So let's get into that right now, Mon. Bengals, Chiefs, AFC Championship. Mon, do I even have to ask who you got?
I got the Cincinnati Bengals winning this game. I believe it's the same score I had last week. They're going to win 34-24. It's going to be close, but then the Bengals are just going to keep on chopping wood, and and they're going to pull away a 10-point win for the Bengals on to Super Bowl 57.
I'm also going to pick our Cincinnati Bengals. Big surprise there. And I am going to go with I'm going to go with a 10-point win. I think it's going to be 31-21, which might have been what I picked last week too. So we'll see. 31-21. Our Cincinnati Bengals are going on to face Maan in Super Bowl 57. Who you got? 49ers, Eagles. Who are we going to be playing in Super Bowl 57?
I think I'm going to stick with the San Francisco 49ers. I think they have the best defense in football. I I just think they're going to win it. I think the Eagles have better overall offensive talent. But there's something about Shanahan and the defense that he has. I think they're going to win it, and we're going to have a rematch of Super Bowl 16 and 23 with the Bengals and the 49ers.
All right. Well, let me say this because I'm kind of on both sides here. I think that the 49ers are, I know it's going to sound crazy. I think the 49ers are a better matchup for us, to be honest with you.
I do
I
too.
think I think if the 49ers win against the Eagles and we beat the Chiefs, I got a real good feeling about the Bengals going into that Super Bowl. I think the Eagles are going to present some challenges for the Bengals. I really do. Um, so I'm kind of on both sides here. I think the 49ers are a better matchup. I think the Eagles are a tougher matchup. Um, but I'm also going to go with the 49ers. I think the 49ers go up to Philadelphia, and I think this becomes a defensive battle. And I think the 49ers, I think we get a rematch of Super Bowl 16 and 23. And I don't know. We'll see. Like I said, I think the 49ers are a better matchup, but who knows? I thought the Rams were a better matchup last year. Just to me, I look at quarterback play and, you know, looking at Brock Purdy versus Jalen Hurts. I don't think either one of them are at any level yet that we can start bragging on. But I think Jalen Hurts, obviously, with his mobility, causes a little bit more issues for us.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the 49ers are a better matchup for the Cincinnati Bengals. Uh, I do, listen, the Eagles, hell of a team. I just want, me personally, I want a rematch against the 49ers. This new
I know.
Bengals era, this new Bengals, Zach Taylor, Joe Burrow, it's all about breaking trends, okay? Breaking the past. I remember last year the Bengals had only won one game against the Raiders on the road, something silly like that. Ended up beating them. The Bengals have never won a road playoff game until last year. How
Yes.
many have we won now? And it's all about breaking trends. And we have two losses against the 49ers in the Super Bowl. Third time's going to be a charm.
Let's break that curse, because let me tell you right now, those other two losses to the 49ers ruined my childhood. They literally ruined my childhood. So I need that. I need a Bengals 49ers Super Bowl, and I need a Bengals win to get those childhood memories back that the 49ers and Joe Montana stole from me. Real quick, though, before we get out here, Mon, a couple crazy things. First thing, and I know these two right now are not in the same category, but with the Bengals win over the Bills, this was tweeted out last week. The Bengals win over the Bills. Zach Taylor now has the highest postseason winning percentage in NFL history, Mon, with 5 wins and 1 loss. Who's number one? Who is number one over Zach Taylor?
Vince Lombardi.
Yes.
I saw that. I saw that.
Oh, you saw it. Okay. You should have
saw
told
that.
me that. You should have
I'm
told me that.
sorry.
You should have said, you should have got it right and just walked away. Why would you tell me that you
Actually, I
saw
didn't see it. My superior intellect, it's all good.
that? Your superior intellect. All right. This other one, very interesting. I love these things, and I love our guy Jay Morrison, who we had on this show. He is so awesome, and he's just like me. He loves these crazy kind of stats, and he tweeted this out. I don't know if you saw this, so I won't even make it a trivia question because you probably did. But All right, let me put this together. Joe Burrow is the only quarterback in NFL history that has beat Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Tom Brady in the same season. He's the only quarterback in NFL history to go head to head with those three and beat them. All right. Four other quarterbacks have gone head to head with those three guys in the same season. Blake Bortles, who went 1-2 in 2018. Derek Carr went 1-3 in 2020. Justin Herbert, your guy, went 0-3 in 2020. And Tyler Heineke went 1-2 in 2021. There's only 5 guys that have ever faced those 3 quarterbacks in the same season. Joe Burrow is the only one to beat all 3. Thank you, Jay Morrison, for that. I love that stat. I think it's awesome.
Like, yeah, that is an interesting stat. I'm just who would want to even look up that stat? I mean, it's
Jay
crazy.
Morrison, and me. The two of us would like to look up those stats. Listen, real quick too. We talk about Bengals bulletin board material. How about the Pro Football Writers? Not one Bengal, Maan. How in the world does not one Bengal from an AFC Championship, a team playing in the AFC Championship, has not one Bengal make that entire team? Not first team, not second team. You're telling me not one Bengal from a team playing in the AFC Championship that won 12 games has one guy on your team? Again, that stuff is nonsense because they're all a bunch of clowns as far as I'm concerned, as far as the writers go. But how does not one Bengal make that team on? Is that insane?
I get it. I think it's silly. I understand there's limited spaces. There's only one quarterback, first team, second team, another one. But how can a DJ Reader is well deserving of that?
Oh my God, man!
Joe
Burrow.
I mean,
Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow.
I hear you. I hear you.
Listen.
I'm glad it happened because I can guarantee you that's on the Bengals bulletin board. That and Willie Gay and all these other comments. Hey, just keep on talking. We want trophies. We want team trophies. We want the AFC Championship. We want a Super Bowl. Let those guys get those other accolades. I want our players to be called world champions.
Okay, I do too. I love all that. But let me just throw this out here real quick, okay? Patrick Mahomes, he is the other media darling, so everybody loves Patrick Mahomes. So okay, Patrick Mahomes, he's not better than Joe Burrow, but whatever. Patrick Mahomes, I see that. You're telling me that Joe Burrow is not the second best quarterback in the NFL? I mean, that's insane. That is truly just. I mean, what are they throwing darts at a board? What a bunch of clowns. Listen, you're telling me that Tyreek Hill is better than Jamar Chase? I mean, Mon, that makes absolutely no sense. You're telling me, Mon, that Quinn Williams is better than DJ Reader? I mean, that's just silly, Mon.
No, I think it is too. Listen, I think that I would take Jamar Chase any day over Tyreek Hill, but Jamar Chase missed 4 games. If Jamar Chase,
he's still better than Tyreek Hill.
Listen, they go by stats and stats only.
Oh, God.
And Tyreek Hill had more stats, obviously, because he played more games. And don't forget, Jamar Chase only played 16 games this year instead of 17. And you take away the ones that he was injured in. So his stats are pretty impressive for literally playing 11 games. Man, listen, I get the frustration. I sent that text out a few days ago. I couldn't believe it either. You would think at least one guy, DJ Reader. I agree with you on Burrow, but DJ Reader is the Joe Burrow. He's a Joe Burrow of our defense. He is. Could you imagine if he never came back this year from that injury? Where would we be right now? I don't think we'd be talking right now about a AFC Championship game. DJ Reader is a stud, and if anybody deserves it, it's him.
Mon, he's the best. He's the best nose tackle in football, Mon.
He is.
He's the best nose tackle. I mean, you can say all that other stuff. He's the best nose tackle in football.
Right, but nose tackles don't get sexy stats. They don't get 10 sacks and all that. So people just, gloss it over. They look at Quinnen Williams, who can penetrate and do other things, is a little flashier. It's silly. It is. I agree with you, though. I agree.
I mean, listen, like you said, there's just put it on the bulletin board. Zach Taylor talked about it this week. He's trying to find everything he can now. It's week 20. He said it's easy. It's real easy week 1. Week 20, it gets difficult. But that Chiefs linebacker helped us out a little bit too, didn't he?
Oh, he did.
He doesn't think that anything that he's seen is impressive about the Bengals offense. Nothing. They don't have to worry about anything, Mon. They don't have to worry about Joe Burrow or Jamar Chase or Tyler Boyd or T. Higgins or Joe Mixon or Hayden Hurst. None of those guys. They don't have to worry about any of them, Mon. None of them. They're in good shape. So we'll see. We'll see on Sunday if the Chiefs can put their money where their mouth is. It's going to be exciting. I'm going to be at the Abba Hossens once again. Hopefully, not staying out in the front yard the last 5 minutes. Hopefully, I can enjoy the last 5 minutes in the house like I did last Sunday. But it's going to be fun, Mon. I'm pumped. I am excited about this football game. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, me too. I can't wait. I wish it was Sunday already, but listen, let's have a healthy, nobody get hurt in practice tomorrow. Let's get Hayden Hurst healthy. And exactly.
Yeah, knock on wood.
Let's get a win. Let's just get ready for Super Bowl 57.
Let's get ready for it. That is another edition of the Bengals Pulse. Once again, guys, if you liked this podcast, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. Make sure you check us out on all the awesome podcast platforms, Stitcher, Spotify, and Apple. Once again, if you like this podcast, please give Maan and I that 5-star review. We very much appreciate that. Make sure you check us out and follow us on Twitter at Bengals_Pulse9, on Instagram, the same without the at, Bengals_Pulse9. And as always, make sure you check out all the awesome podcasts right here on the Wincinnati Podcast Network. He is Maan. Where are you at? Oh, you're over there now. He is Maan. I am Jake. This is the Bengals Pulse. Hooday, Bengal fans. We will talk to you Sunday night after the football game, hopefully about another Super Bowl trip. Hooday, guys. We'll talk to you on Sunday.
See ya.